I'll ask if anyone's got any questions throughout, but at the very end, we'll do like a really in-depth Q&A. So if there's anything that I've not covered, whether it's business, whether it's social media, we can cover that at the end, and you can literally ask me anything and I'll try and answer as best as I can. Yeah. Okay, so today is basically to discover effective techniques that you can use to grow your online presence at the moment. Now, so I basically broke down everything that we're going to cover. So we're going to cover what you need to do when building a social media strategy, tips for creating impactful content, a breakdown of content ideas. So when it comes to creating content, I know it can be overwhelming with what content to create. So I'll show you some tips on how to create it and just some inspiration. So when you guys leave here, you've got a few ideas that you can then go and start creating content. Then I've got how to effectively engage your community, how to build an effective hashtag strategy, and how to also measure your success and to not give up, because that is one of the most important things here. We don't give up. Now, in the chat, everyone put if they've got a social media strategy. Now, don't panic if you haven't got a social media strategy, because the amount of businesses that I speak to that don't, that's fine. And they're important, but there are ways around it.
What means strategy?
What, sorry?
Sorry. I didn't know that my mic is not on. Oh, my mic is on, sorry.
No, that is fine. You can ask me. That is fine. So we've got, not really, managed to make sure I post every day. That is a strategy in itself. So post in my notes. I like that idea of rewriting post in my notes. It's a really good one. Okay, so when it comes to building a social media strategy, now there's so much that you can incorporate into a strategy, and it's not necessarily something that you need to do in the beginning, but however, it will keep you on point. So in the initial stages, sorry, I don't know if someone's not on mute. Can everyone hear that echo? Is it all okay? Just so you can hear me fine.
Yeah.
All good? Perfect. Okay, so when you're building out a social media strategy, you really want to focus on defining your brand. Now, whether that be a business brand or your personal brand, because I'm assuming a lot of you will use your personal name with your business, and you get you get more opportunity with that. So you can then decide whether you're going to put your face to the brand, whether you're just going to use your work to speak for itself, or if you're going to align the both of them together. Now, a lot of people do panic when it comes to incorporating the brand. That's something that we will cover when we come over to the content section. But your brand is something that will just you come up with your unique style and be able to speak to your target audience, and to ensure that you're providing enough value under your brand tree, in a sense, so that people can identify you. So for example, if you're in a room of 10 nail techs, you will stand out amongst everyone. Does that make sense? Yeah. Perfect. So the next part that you want to do when it comes to your strategy is to really identify your audience and who you're speaking to. Now, if you have a broad audience and it's, in a sense, you're trying to work with anyone, then that is your audience. But it's about figuring out what content resonates with your audience online. Because in a sense, if we just start creating content and it's all over the place, it's really broad, we're never really going to be able to analyze what works and what doesn't. So it's really important in the initial stages to niche down on that so we know what works. Then I can imagine a lot of us set really unrealistic goals for ourselves. We might sit there and say, well, such and such has got 10,000 followers. I want to achieve that by next month, but I'm falling off the content wheel because I haven't got time to create the content. What we need to do is really focus on setting achievable goals. And I know it's difficult in a sense to sit there and say, right, this week I'm going to achieve 100 followers if you're really busy and you're fully booked. But what I would say is to sit there and set clear goals that are actionable for you, and don't compare yourself to anyone else when you're obviously trying to write these goals. Now, content pillars. Content pillars, is this something that everyone's aware of, or would you like me to go further into detail about content pillars? Go further in detail? Perfect. So content pillars are, in a sense, if I move to the next slide, I have broke this down because a lot of people struggle with content pillars. These are basically your overarching themes or categories that will guide the creation for your social channels. So if you're posting on Instagram, then I would recommend to have 3 to 5 content pillars. This is going to help you really provide like a structural approach when creating your content. So it might be that if you sit there and plan out your content for the month and you write down 5 content pillars, instead of sitting there saying, right, I've got 30 days here to plan out content, if you've got 5 pillars, you'll then know that you're creating content in line with them pillars. So I've put examples there where we've got nail art showcase, educational tips, behind the scenes, nail care advice. You can really hone in on them pillars to ensure that you've got consistent content throughout that month, as opposed to sitting there saying, how am I going to create 30 different pieces of content all month? Yeah, makes sense? There are quite a few tips as well that I'll come to when it comes to trying to create a month's worth of content. I will come to that and kind of like my best tips for how I would do it personally, because one of the most important things is that you don't need to reinvent the content wheel. So if we move on to content planning, oh no, we're still on content. Right, okay. These are just a few more points that you can include in your content strategy. So when you're building that social strategy, content is obviously a massive part of it, because social media today is all things content. And I think that's why so many people have been like, I can't keep up with it, because it is so heavy focused on that content. Let me just catch more details, please. Liv, if you can just let me know what them more details were for, sorry, and I will go back to that and go into more depth for this. And is Instagram still relevant? You know, with the other, yes. So Instagram is definitely still relevant. Instagram is one of them platforms that if you can treat it kind of like a portfolio, obviously TikTok is really, really raw, but Instagram is kind of more like your portfolio. When people come over, they want to see what you do, what you offer, and it's more localized as well, whereas TikTok can appear more broad unless you've got the SEO titles correct. So for example, if you're going, say you're going to London on Saturday for a meal, you could head over to TikTok now and say best places to eat in London, and you'll see loads and loads of content of people that are eating out there. So that is something that we can cover. I'm more than happy to go over that at the end as well, if you guys would like to know some tips and tricks about TikTok and how to obviously stand out on them platforms. But with Instagram, it definitely is relevant if you're creating the right content that speaks to your audience. Any platform is relevant if that's what we can do. And content pillars, okay, perfect. So content planning, creating a content calendar, this is probably more beneficial than panicking about a social strategy. A content calendar is really going to help you focus that month on shifting your content pillars and creating content that speaks to your audience. So if you have a calendar, say you use a Google Sheet, it doesn't need to be too thought out, just literally a Google Sheet. And what I would say is at the end of this, if you all are panicking that you haven't got a content calendar, I have a content calendar that I'm more than happy to share with you all as well. So I will send the link over and you guys can just use that as a template and add in content ideas. So it'll just save you a job from having to develop one. But this content calendar will help you post consistently and also analyze next month what you've posted last month, so you can then recreate more ideas. Then I talk about visual consistency in any social strategy, because with any brand, you can recognize a brand by their color scheme and the filters they use and the fonts they use. So I would always recommend having 3 colors within your scheme, and also having 1 to 2 fonts. Ideally, you want kind of a font that stands out and looks a little bit pretty, and then one that is really, really easy to read. Don't try and have loads of different fonts that don't match. They're all over the place and people can't read, because it will just put people off. Then the last 2 points that I would really focus on when it comes to a social strategy is 1, your engagement strategy, because this is something that will really help you build your community. Just like we're here now, being able to provide back to your community is so important. Hence why we were all here today trying to learn. So if people comment on any of your posts, always engage with them, say thank you. And if you can, send them a message. Send them a message to say, thank you so much for engaging with my post. It was greatly appreciated. Let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Even people that like your posts, engage with them, because that is how you're really going to grow your brand, by building the community and taking that time to actually start to speak to your audience. Yeah. Then user-generated content. Now, this is probably one of the most effective ways of getting content for any social strategy. If you have clients that come to you, if you can encourage them to create content of your work, then that's going to stop you having to create all this content, because they've done it for you. They can also collaborate posts with you for your social media, which will save you time having to think that day I need to get a post out, or you can stick it within your content calendar and say, I have an aim this week that I need to get 2 people to post for me so that I can repost that on my page. And people will relate to that more because they'll see that your customers are also doing that for you as well. Yeah, everyone with me on that? Perfect. Okay, now I'm just going to come to, before we go into content, I'm just going to come to these questions here. That's perfectly fine, Julie. Anything after this call, if there's anything that you want to ask me, just send me a voice note on Instagram and I'll get back to you ASAP, or a quick message. Why is sending a message important if you reply? So if you reply to a comment on Instagram, let's say someone leaves a comment and they say that they love your work, you can message them and say, thank you so much for engaging. But if you also go out your way to message them and say, thank you so much for engaging with my content, hope you're having a lovely day. You don't have to do it, but it is something else to show that you've gone above and beyond. And if you have got that time, I would always say to do it, because someone will sit there and say, wow, I didn't expect that. For example, today I went and got my lashes done. And when I left, I voice noted the girl that did them. And I said, thank you so much for my lashes today. I absolutely loved them. And she turned around and she was like, thank you so much for messaging me and sending me a voice note, because she was like, I didn't expect to have that, but it's so nice to have someone that would send that. So it's even just them little things that people love, because it's community building. So has anyone got any questions at the moment before we go on to content? No? Perfect. Okie dokie. Right, let's talk content. Now, who struggles the most with content? Put your hand up if you do. Content, yeah, this is usually the biggest struggle, but we're going to make it easy. Don't worry, we'll make it easy. Now, when it comes down to content, I like to say there's an 80-20 split. So the categories that you want to focus on is your inspirational, aspirational, and educational content. Everyone write that down. Now, an 80-20 split, your 80% split is going to be them 3 categories, and then your 20% split is going to be when you're promoting, so your sales. Yeah. So I have gone into further detail about inspirational, aspirational, and educational content, because I know that a lot of you will sit there and say, but what do these mean? How can I create content in line with each of these pillars? But in a sense, you could actually use these as your overall content pillars and then add content ideas within them, and it'll just help you stay on track. But always try and follow that 80-20% split, because 80% of the time you are just nurturing your audience, showing them what you can do, valuing them, providing them with education, inspiring them on a daily basis, whilst also educating them. And then when you post that 20% of the time about sales, people don't feel as though you're just trying to get that booking. People feel like you've already given them so much that they want to book in with you, or they want to buy from you, because you've invested that time, you've nurtured them in that sense. So when it comes to also creating that content, we always say you want to research their pain points. You want to see what do they struggle with. And you can do this in so many different ways, by even asking them questions, doing polls on Instagram and saying, what do you guys struggle with? Leave a comment below and get people to engage with you, because that's really going to help you then tailor the content that you create in line with what people are actually asking you. Now, let's check the same messages. No. So another thing that we can look at when creating content is using storytelling techniques to basically connect emotionally with them. So if you can imagine that, say you're using your personal brand and you're trying to decide, say you want a service done, you want your nails doing, and you want to go and get some work done, but you don't know who to go to. If someone is there and they're really promoting themselves and you can buy into them as a person as opposed to just their work, nowadays that helps so much more, because people like it when you get vulnerable. They like it when you show your face. They like it when they can see that you're a little bit nervous behind that camera, but you're pushing your boundaries just to try and nurture them. People relate to that so much now. Even if it's on your feed and it's just on your stories, people love to just see a face and to see the behind the scenes, to see the customers. You can really start to push on that to build your community. Yeah, definitely. So pain points, what I'll do is when we come over to, I'll go through all this style content, and then this should answer a few pain point questions, because obviously, as you can imagine, everyone's target audience might be different. So their pain points might be different as well. So it's about figuring out what your audience wants to see. And there are so many different ways that we can do that. So for example, if you have, say there's 5 nail techs in your industry and they're not local, but you aspire to be like them. If you were to spend an hour scrolling through their comments on their posts, you would see comments from people that are interested in their work, and you could then use that as inspiration, as pain points to then recreate content based on what people are already asking, because that person is already in your niche. So it saves you having to do your own market research, because you can already see that someone in your niche has all that engagement, so you know what people want to know, and then you can create effective content in line with that, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Now, when it comes to content, I want to tell you all to stop overthinking it, because I know how easy it is to overthink it. I've been there. I started building my personal brand in, was it the 31st of December, 1st of January, I'm going to say it was. Prior to that, I was a nightmare. So whilst I have a social media agency, I did everything for my clients, but when it came to myself, I argued I didn't have time. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to post my face on my brand at all. And then when I did that and I started to do it in January, it's the best decision I've ever made, because now organically clients come to me, as opposed to me having to constantly create all this content trying to find work. So eventually, the more you create, the more consistent you are with it, that's when you're going to start getting organic sales and organic bookings. So I promise you, it will be worth it in the long run. Now, stop overthinking it. How many of you have got Canva? Everyone put your hands up if you've got Canva. Perfect. Now, if you haven't got Canva, it is the most amazing tool. I'm sure everyone that's got it here will back me up on that. It's so easy to use. The templates on there are amazing. You don't need to sit there and start thinking. If you're going to create a graphic, you don't need to sit there and think, how can I make this graphic from scratch? I would always advise to use a template and then to add your own twist to it to make it more unique to you, especially if you've got your own brand colors, your own fonts, your own filters, everything. So for example, we could all use the same template now, but if we add our own brand colors and our own little twist, it'll look completely different by the end of it. So if I was you, I would literally focus on creating graphics using templates from Canva, and it will also speed up that process for you. Now, there's also no more excuses that you haven't got content to post. For example, right now on this call, this is content. So we can all do it. We can all get our phones, we can stick it on a tripod, we can balance it against a wall, and we can literally film anything that we're doing that day. Even if it is making your breakfast, it might not seem relevant to your work, but people will then buy into you and what you do in that day. So you can do days in the life, you can create clips, you can film behind the scenes working on a client, behind the scenes of any designs that you're doing. All that, whether it's 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 3 minutes, that's all content that you can then repurpose, even if it's a case of just adding text over the top so that you can provide value in that sense. There's so much content that you can do. How many of us record clips throughout the day? Anyone? Kind of, sometimes. And at the end of the day, when we haven't, we sit there and we say, I could have filmed today. I could have done that. Why didn't I do that? We all do it. I do it every single day when I've filmed and I go, why did I not film that? Or a client said to me the other day on a shoot, she was like, did you film on the way to the shoot? And I was like, no. But little things like that is just trying to instill and making it a sense of your routine, that if you've got a client in, you sit there and you know that your phone's going to be there, and you don't even need to film the client. It's just a case of filming the hands, and do you know, something to keep the client out of it. If they don't want to be in the image, they don't need to be. But even if you're in it, or even if you don't want to be in it, you can angle the camera so it's kind of above, so that no faces need to be in there. Now, when it comes to scheduling content as well, I know a lot of people feel as though they're creating content, they're posting it that day, they're not posting it at optimal times. I'd always recommend to use Facebook Business Suite to schedule your content. And you can also now schedule reels from directly within Instagram. So all of our clients' work is scheduled within Instagram or Facebook Business Suite. They're my favorite because they're totally free and you don't need to overthink it. They're just the apps on your phone, and you can go in and you can schedule everything really easily. Does anyone here use Facebook Business Suite or Instagram scheduling tools at all? Yeah, perfect. So if you don't, it's so simple. When you go to post, say if you're posting a post on Instagram, as you go to post it, it'll say advanced options at the bottom. When you press that, it'll literally say schedule. You'll then be able to schedule that post in advance. and that applies to Reels, etc. The only thing that you can't schedule is when you collaborate posts. So if you're trying to invite, say, if you're trying to use your business page and a personal page, you can't schedule any collaborator posts on Instagram, but everything else you can do. Now, don't post without purpose. A lot of us also do this where we say, right, I need to get a post on today because I've not posted, or I've not posted in 4 days. I just need to get a post out there. That is posting without purpose. If we do that, we can't really analyze what's working. I've been there before when I've thought, I just need to post. I've not posted in 4 days. We'll just get it up. And then when I come back to look at my insights, I sit there and I'm like, well, I can't really track anything here because that post wasn't relevant. That post attracted 74 men that were liking my pictures, but none of them bought from me. That's not good for anyone. You really want to keep it so it's focused on your target audience, and everything that you're creating is in line with what your audience wants to see. If you think you've not got content to recreate, then that's why I'm saying to film behind the scenes clips, because that'll really help you guys when it comes to creating content that's still relevant, because it's your day to day and it's people getting involved in your life and what you do on a daily basis. Now, trends as well, you don't need to jump on all trends. One of my top tips here is, if in your niche, everyone is jumping on the same trend, you become, I always say this wrong, you become a small fish in a very big pond. Whereas if you find, say, a restaurant niche that's got an amazing trend, and you jump on that trend and apply your own twist to it, you become a big fish in a very small pond. No, is that right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean, guys. I always get it wrong, but that's the way around it. If you're jumping on something that everyone's doing, you're never going to stand out because you're just kind of within that niche, and it's not really going to push you. So don't panic about jumping on all trends. If you're creating content that resonates with your audience, you guys will thrive. Now, just going to go onto these questions. So we've got, do you think shorter reels do better for engagement? At this moment in time, shorter reels do better for engagement. But what I would say is, if they're really creative, I find that a lot of people find that they're satisfying. So if they are longer, that also works. But with reels, if you can do like a really snappy short post with text on it, you'll see a lot of people at the moment that'll do like 3 to 5 second reels with, say, 6 points on this one page. And obviously everyone has to keep watching it because the points disappear really quickly. So that's a really good way of obviously getting views up and getting insights. You just want to make sure though that your audience do want to spend their time obviously waiting for you to write that content, because a lot of people can see through the fluff now, where they can see that you're just trying to get them views. Facebook Business Suite. Now, Facebook Business Suite is, if you type it in on Google, it's basically where you can manage your Facebook and your Instagram from within one platform. So you can schedule reels on there as well, but I would say it's a little bit more difficult and not as easy as just using the Instagram app on your phone. But Facebook Business Suite is really good because you've got like a planner on there, you can see all your analytics, and you can just schedule all of your content from within that, the copywriting, everything. So after this call, have a look through Facebook Business Suite, because I promise you it will save you a lot of time and money and stress. Can't schedule an Instagram. I think it might be a page time, but I don't have that option. It might be, check if you're a business page, Sasha. If you're a personal account, it might not allow you to schedule. Some accounts don't have it, some do, and then you'll have some days where it'll give you the option and some days where it won't, but it will come back. If it isn't there, it might just be that you're either private or that you're or that you're not a business account. So have a look into that. Scheduling posts reduces engagement. It isn't. It's not true. You do get a lot of people say if you schedule posts, it can reduce your engagement. I have heard people say this when you've used like third-party platforms. So if you've used, say, Plannerly or Later, that can potentially reduce the engagement. But if you're using Instagram scheduling tools or Facebook scheduling tools, they want you to do well. So they're not going to stunt your growth if you use their own platform. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, guys, honestly, any questions after this, when we're at the end, you can take yourself off mute as well, ask any questions.
I've got a question here that's been sent directly to me, but I'll say it out loud. It's from Zoom user, so I'm not sure who it is, but they've asked, what type of Instagram account is best for me? Should I switch to business or creator?
So business accounts are really good if you're selling a physical product. So if you're selling a physical product on Instagram, that's brilliant. But what I would bear in mind is that when you're a business account, you lose the chance of using certain sounds. So you might not be able to use certain trending sounds. Whereas if you're a creator account, you can use any sound. Creator accounts always get pushed further than business as well. So for example, we always say that if you've got a business accounts, they do well initially, then they start to die off, then they'll do well, and then they'll die off again. Whereas a creator's account, people relate to people, so they'll always perform so much better because you're posting consistently about a person. So for example, if you were to look at my business page, Events Agency, it kind of gets a bit stagnant because no one can really relate to anyone behind that brand unless I'm there actively posting, whereas my personal account will consistently grow because people can relate to me as I'm speaking on that account. Make sense? And I have a creator account, didn't have anything for you somewhere. Susan, I'm happy to have a look after the call with you. If you've got any struggles, we can go over it together. If you want to give me a message, and I can even have a look if you've got any issues. Okay, right. Any more questions on that? No? Okay. So content ideas here. Now, I'm more than happy if you guys literally just want to write some of these down. I'm just going to make this smaller so I can see. My head's massive on my screen right now. Okay, so I've broken down the content ideas into inspirational, aspirational, and educational. Now, I know that a lot of people struggle with coming up with these concepts. So these are literally just a few things that you can use. And then obviously you guys can adapt them in any way that you want. So nail art, these can be inspirational. Now, the aim here is to basically inspire others to either recreate your work or to inspire people to come in and obviously get the nails done by you guys. So share everything that you're doing, and I literally mean anything that you're doing. So if you're creating something and you think this is amazing, even if you think you're not confident at creating the best reel, film it in clips, and then at the end of that, just use CapCut to put it together. Don't overthink creating something really fancy, because the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. If you haven't used CapCut as well, this is basically a reel software that you can use. So you literally put all your clips into CapCut and it will create you a really fancy reel. So if anyone hasn't used that as well, it is the best platform ever at the moment. Then I've got motivational quotes. So a lot of people love motivational quotes, whether it's relevant to a person, whether it's related to nails. You want something that people can repost. Shareable content will increase your brand and your engagement, and it'll also grow you as a person as well. So motivational quotes are also good because you can put your own twist on it. So if you're funny, you can create your own memes, you can create your own quotes, and you'll be surprised the amount of people that reshare these. And when they do reshare them, it's probably one of the best feelings as well, because you think that person's really resonated with what I've said there because they've reposted it on their page. And if it hasn't been reposted the first time, don't panic, keep using them, keep being consistent with it, because eventually someone will repost your work, someone will start to comment, and people will start to engage with you. Then I mentioned earlier about getting vulnerable when it comes to inspiring people, because people love it when you get vulnerable. Some of my best performing posts are when I'm sat there in my pajamas and I've got my hair on top of my head, because that is relatable. Like, let's be honest, no one wakes up looking beautifully glam in terms of like hairbrush and everything. We don't. So if you wake up and you're having a down day, share that with people, because likelihood is most people are probably having a down morning and they need someone to relate to. But if you're having a really good morning, also share that, because those that are having a bad morning will be uplifted by the fact you're having a good morning, and you can uplift people by inspiring those around you by just getting vulnerable with them. Yeah, I'm conscious that I'm speaking really fast to get this all in for everyone, so I'm trying to like slow it all down. Now, niche inspiration as well. If I'm going too quick, anyone please just say, and I will try and slow everything down. So niche inspiration, again, you can make this. If you've got a specific niche, you can create inspirational content based on your niche. If you're stuck for coming up with ideas, I also use Pinterest as well. So if you write like inspirational content on Pinterest, that'll also give you like mood board ideas for like images that you can take. That's one way of saying, if you're trying to create content for the month and you're trying to think that you want to create a specific type of image, then head over to Pinterest and build yourself a mood board of images that you want to take that month, and then just aim to try and recreate that content. Then we've got aspirational content. So aspirational content, so this is basically where you're going to aspire. So you want to aspire your audience. So it might be that people aspire to have nails, like say if you created a nail look and you want someone else to aspire to have them nails in the same way that they've been inspired by someone else that might have already had them. So these content pillars all kind of resonate together and they all interlink. So you can share nail art designs that obviously showcase your capabilities to encourage people to book in. You can share celebrity inspired nails. This is a really good way of basically building your engagement, and it's also really good to go viral. If you can recreate something that a celebrity's had, or say a really top end influencer, and you can tag them, you've also got chances then of them reposting your content. Or I've worked with clients in the past where they've tagged like celebrities' managers, and the managers have then reposted it and showed it to the celebrity themselves. So that's something as well to consider.
And it's better, is it? Thinking it was over there, it's just very safe. It's a win anyway. So what we measured 3.
Here we are.
Is that for me?
Here we go.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Just making sure it wasn't for me. Okay, and then we've got nail trends as well. So nail trends, if you can offer a sneak peek into what you think an upcoming nail trend is going to be, then do it. Or even if you want to create your own trend, what I find is if people create things that are dead out the box, they might be totally ridiculous as well. Create it. If someone wants to have I'm going to say minions on the nails, but have you seen them reels where people literally create things and the nails might be like out here, but it's like a mad design and people relate to that because it's like, how can anyone work with nails that long? How can anyone do this? Or you can just incorporate things that are really creative, but people will get on board with it because it's different, it stands out, and it's not the everyday thing, and people will engage with it. Any engagement in the early stages is good engagement, regardless of what people say, because your account will be pushed once you're growing. Then we've got guest features as well. So this could be literally any clients that you're working with. This is where you can incorporate influencers if you wanted to, just to give your audience a taste of basically aspirational lifestyle. But you can also use your general customers here as well, in a sense of what they've got and the work that you've created for them, what they've had that day, because that is also aspirational, because it'll encourage others to basically come on and get that same treatment. Any questions about aspirational content and inspirational content? No? Okay. Now, educational content. Does anyone here post educational content at the moment or any sort of value? A little bit. Now, there's an account, and I always forget what it's called, but it's basically like a skincare account. Now this girl offers facials globally. She literally travels the world doing facials, but she's grown her business based on providing that much value to show people that they can.
I don't know which is which.
Which is which one? That's me.
Which one are you having? What did you have? What was it called?
I think someone's come on.
I'm not sure if that was you. Just gone through and muted.
I couldn't tell you who that one was. Right, we'll come back to that. So basically, sorry guys, so coming back to that, there's a facial account, and she basically grew her account because she was providing people with the same service that they could get obviously on her bed, but from home, and it was by using like drugstore products. So say that she was offering a service for £100, she was showing that people could go and have the same treatment for £10 at home. And obviously some people would look at that and say, why would she do that? Because she's losing business. But she actually provided that much value that it became a luxury to obviously book in with her. So while she was giving that value back to her audience, people wanted to buy into her to actually see the difference by going to her. And she ended up being booked like years in advance because everyone was just obsessed with what she did. So if you can literally sit there and offer nail care tips and really nurture your audience in a way that once you've left the salon, this is what you need to do. Or if you don't have the budget this month to come in and get your nails done, this is what you need to do. This is what we can do. This is our top tips for like making sure your nails look nice, or how you can do them from home. Ways like that really get people to buy into you because you're actually thinking about them, especially with the current climate as well. Even though you want obviously that booking, people will then buy into you once they've got the money to obviously spend as well. Then I've got technique demos as well. Now, break down advanced techniques like ombre nails and marble effects, things like this do well because this is when people are going to recreate your work. So let's say that you create a look, someone else creates that same look, and then they credit you. Then they're pushing your brand, and you've also educated them in a way that you probably wouldn't have thought you could have done if it wasn't for the power of social media. Then I've got product insights as well. So explaining the benefits of nail care products or even colors that you use. With them type of insights, it's crazy the amount of people that will buy into that. So say 1 week you've had 10 people in and they've all had a specific color. If you can explain to people and talk about the color that everyone's had that week, people will be like, you know what, I want to have nails that are like that, or there's a reason for that. I need to now buy that color in so that I have that in my salon. And you're also nurturing your audience and inspiring educators around you as well, if that makes sense. Then problem solving, so address common nail issues and provide solutions, demonstrate your expertise, and you can also host Q&As where you can answer followers' questions about anything that they want to know. So always try to nurture your audience with problem solving, because again, that's when people will buy into you, your business, and your personal brand. Do you think voiceovers are good? I hate my voice on video, but also it's good. So I personally love voiceovers. I do, especially if you've just filmed clips all that day. Voiceovers are brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I sit there and listen back to myself sometimes and I'm like, that sounds awful, but it gets the best engagement as well. If you can do a voiceover and also add captions, because one thing I would say is that some people might be watching your video with the sound off, say if they're on the train, say if they're in work and they should be working and they don't want the boss to know. Like if you can literally put your copyright and translations on there, then people will start to read your captions as well. So whilst you've done a voiceover that you might not want people to listen to, they might not actually listen to it, but they will read what you are saying. So definitely test voiceovers if you can, because people like to resonate with your voice, even though you might not do, people do. Now, don't reinvent the content wheel. One of my top tips for creating a month's worth of content is to literally pick 5 people within your niche, whether they're in the area, whether they're out of the area, they might be competitors. Pick 5 people, go and look at their content and scroll over the past, say, 2 months worth of content that they've recreated. Look for the best performing content and select, say, 5 pieces of content from each. If you then write that down and then put them ideas in with your content pillars, that gives you 30 days worth of content that's already performed. You don't need to recreate content or come up with your own ideas. All you need to do is then put your own twist on it, because they've already tested it for you. You're just now recreating that content with your own twist, if that makes sense. Any questions about that? No? Okay, so any questions about content in general? So as opposed to, before we move on to building your community and hashtags, have you got any questions about content? Because I know that is such a big thing that obviously a lot of people want to know more about. So ask me anything. No question is silly as well. If anyone has a question they don't want to ask me anything.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is it really important the time that you post? And is it different for absolutely everybody?
So back in the day it was. So this time last year, if you looked at time of post, it really did matter. Whereas now, if you think about it, say if everyone's posting at 6 o'clock and your insights are higher at 6 o'clock, yes, they're higher because let's be honest, we're all sat there at 6. We're all either making tea, we're sat on the couch, we're all on our phones. But if you're posting at 6 o'clock and you follow 1,000 people on Instagram and 1,000 people are posting at 6 o'clock, your content is just going to get lost in that unless people really engage with your content anyway. It's kind of like when you look at your stories, you look at a story one day, it might have 50 views. You look at it the next day, it might have 900 views. It's not been about the time of post, it's been more about how valuable that content has been. And then the more people that engage with that post, the more the Instagram algorithm will push it. So I wouldn't panic too much about time of post, whilst you can look at your insights, because you'll find that everyone's is different, but it'll also be very similar. So it might be 8 a.m, 12 p.m, 6 p.m, 9 p.m. That's kind of like your peak performance. But as I said, if Instagram knows that that content is engaging and people engage with it, they will naturally push that on the algorithm anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. And one more thing as well, if you're to post a carousel, say you post the carousel and it's got 3 images in it. If someone doesn't swipe on that image, but they see the first one and they engage with it as they scroll down and stop on it, the next day it'll show that person the second image of that carousel. If they don't engage with it, then it might potentially show them the third, or it might not do, but the algorithm is trying to now push carousels so that people will start to engage with them more. Laura, I really struggle talking Instagram worthy, taking Instagram worthy client pics. My Instagram feed is only working on myself. Okay, so taking Instagram worthy client pictures. Now, this is something that a lot of people struggle with. I would say everything that counts here is lighting. So if you've seen them little like ring lights that you can get that stick on your camera, always try and take something in a grid format. So when you're trying to take a picture, you can add the grid on your phone. So it literally has like the 9 squares on your phone, then try and angle it. And if you do get stuck with creating content, go onto YouTube, and I would say to literally YouTube how to create good pictures, because you'd be surprised the amount of free value that you can get of people that have been in the same situation as you. Because so many people struggle to get good angles. Even though before you try and take pictures of a client, try and use someone else that you know just as a model. Even if it's your boyfriend, if it's your dog, if it's your mum, if it's your dad, whatever it is, get their hands, get their paws, and try and get some good pictures. And then when you go to a client, at least then you're not as nervous, you know how to do it, and you've practiced. You can also practice on yourself as well. And I've seen a few people that rather than taking it themselves, they get the client to actually take it, because some clients are actually really good at taking pictures of their own nails as well. So if you do get anyone that is good at creating content, ask them to get some content while they're with you. I had that in a story the other day. Do you know what? Sometimes I look at my stories and my insights to write down, and I know that's the day that I've been speaking about absolute one. But when they're right up, that's when I know I've actually been speaking to my audience. And I think that's a really good way of deciding if you're creating content that does resonate with your audience. Because if the views are on the floor, it's likely that they either aren't interested or you haven't tested well enough. The grid is such a good idea. The grid it's honestly a lifesaver, because otherwise you find that you've taken a picture and the nails are off to this side and your phone's over here. Use your grid and everything will just be centralized. Also with Canva, when you're trying to post on Instagram, you want to make sure that it's the right size for Instagram. Don't be posting pictures that are, say, a small square, the rectangles. Try and keep them in the same format. And if you need to resize your posts, literally go onto Canva and resize them directly within there, and then post them over to Instagram. Any more questions, guys? No? Okay, perfect. Now, engaging with your community, we touched on this briefly before. So I mentioned about sending voice notes. So going beyond standard replies by engaging in conversations, asking follow-up questions, and showing genuine interest in your followers' comments. I always say that you really want to do this because it's so important to really nurture that audience, whether they are potential clients, whether they're not clients at all because they're based somewhere miles away, but they're still supporting you. Nurture them, because any engagement is good engagement, and you don't know if they've got friends that are local. It's always good to really, really nurture your audience. You can even nurture collaborator audiences as well. So say if you've got someone within your niche, but they're from out of the area, so they're not necessarily a competitor, try and get them to engage with you as well, because the more people that support each other in the community, the better. And you can also inspire each other as well to create different ideas. And what I find as well, if you can find someone that is technically a competitor, but you can work together, you can then start to share your pool of like customer and client base as well. If you can remove that competition and find ways to collaborate with people, that will push your account massively. Now, competitions as well. So hold competitions that encourage your following to recreate your style of work and to credit you. This is one way that you can now collaborate with other people in the industry. Yes, you can hold competitions for your actual community itself to offer a free set of nails, free treatment, whichever it is. But you can also hold competitions to encourage other people to recreate your work, credit you, and then establish you basically as a thought leader within your industry. So you might say, okay, whoever recreates this, I might give them, it could even be a hamper. Like you could literally recreate yourself a hamper and say, whoever recreates this work is going to be in with the chance of winning this. Make sure to tag me, make sure to recreate my work. I can't wait to see what you guys do. This really focuses on building that community as well, and also removes, say, the competitor style vibe from the industry. And I've got create a sense of exclusivity by offering sneak peeks, discounts, or early access to new services to your most engaged followers. Now you can do this by using your close friend story. So your close friend story on Instagram, you can basically select whoever you want to be in that. And when you then post these offers, you are literally speaking to a hot audience of people that are interested within your service. So for example, if 20 people engage with your poll on your general story and say they want to be in your close friends one, stick them in the close friend story, and then you've got 20 people that you are literally warming up every single day. You can offer them exclusive discounts. You can really, really warm them up. And even I found a lot of people have offered like referral programs and referral schemes to their close friend stories, because obviously they're there and they're their most engaging community as well. So if referrals, is anyone here on any sort of referral scheme? In the comments if anyone has any sort of referral scheme or like a stamp card, anything like that. No. Okay, just a quick tip. So when it comes to referral schemes, something that we've tested recently that's worked really, really well. Back in the day, it used to be a case of if you referred someone over to me, we'll give you 10% off your next treatment. Whereas now you can do it from a monetary perspective and it's more psychological. A refer a friend code and a loyalty card. Perfect. So something that does work is if you say to someone, if you refer a friend over to me and they come over and obviously have a treatment, I'm going to give you £5, as opposed to saying I'll give you £5 off your next treatment. I'm going to give you a physical £5 note. It's crazy the amount of people that will refer people over to you when they think they're getting money, even though they're probably booking for their nails the week after and spend the full amount. You've given them £5 previously, and in their head they've made money. So that's just a psychological aspect of looking at something in a different way, as opposed to just offering people, say, a 10% discount, 20% discount. That's something that you guys can obviously test. Make it £5 off. Yeah, Kelly. So that is perfect. So you can either test £5 off each friend they refer, or you can test giving them £5 by referring someone over as well. Because what you'll find as well, you might give them £5 off, but say if they were to refer 10 people over to you that month, they've made £50. They might not have rebooked in with you that month, but you've made money and they've made £50 off it as well. Now, hashtag strategies. Hashtags aren't a major thing anymore, not like what they used to be, but I'm not sure if any of you do. If you follow certain hashtags, you will start to see really good engaging content. So for example, I follow social media marketing, which means that when I'm scrolling through my feed now, I don't need to click onto social media marketing to go and see what's in that hashtag, but the algorithm will show me content that I will engage with based within that hashtag itself. So still use them, but definitely use, say, a mix of broad, niche, and also branded hashtags to obviously increase your visibility, but also test using localized hashtags and localized tags. That just makes sure that you're going to hit your local area, so you can try and increase your bookings and leads organically. Then you want to research your competitors as well and what industry leaders are using. So you can obviously test what hashtags that they're using on your posts as well, because obviously, as I said earlier, you don't necessarily need to reinvent that content wheel. Then you can develop a hashtag strategy for each platform, because not every hashtag is going to perform across each account. They will be different because your audiences will be different across each platform. So I would say you want to test 3 to 10 hashtags on Instagram. And then when it comes to TikTok, I'd say about 3 to 5. And then, regularly refresh them, because the more you use certain hashtags, if you keep using the same hashtags, you're only going to appear in the same pool. Whereas if you start to use different ones, you'll start to increase your discoverability, and then that will start to push your brand as well. Any questions on hashtags? Anyone? No? Okay, now measuring success. This is probably, after content, the most important bit as well, because when you're creating content, you want to know what is obviously going to work. So when you're trying to measure your success, you want to set clear and measurable goals. You want to look at your follower growth, you want to look at your engagement, and you want to look at what leads that has brought in for you that month. So your follower growth that month, it might be that you haven't really grown in following, but your engagement's gone up. That is also still really good, because it means you're actually speaking to your audience. So if you see that, say, your followers have gone down, especially in the early stages, if you're using a personal account and you transition that to a business account or a creator account, you will start to see a drop in your followers, because you're then going to start talking about business related things. So people will leave. That's totally normal. So always try and analyze your statistics. Follower growth, engagement, they don't both need to be green at all times. As long as you're speaking to your existing audience and your followers are either going up or staying at the same level, but your engagement's going up, that's still a positive. You also want to analyze your top performing posts to understand what resonates with your audience, and whatever performs the best, you want to then recreate that next month. You then want to also embrace a growth mindset, because I'm telling you now, there will be months where you sit there and go, I've tried so hard on socials this month and this hasn't performed. But don't give up, because the more consistent you are with it, the better. And it might be that you've spent hours creating one reel and it hasn't blown up, but you also don't need to. You might create a 3-second clip that goes viral on Instagram, whereas a blooming reel that's taken you 3 hours to recreate might get 4 views. That will dishearten you, but don't be disheartened by it, because it is literally the algorithm just trying to push your content to find out where that resonates and to find who's actually going to engage with your content. The algorithm is clever. It will push your content to who it needs to go to, but you guys just need to make sure that you are speaking to your audience to ensure that the algorithm knows where to push it to. So before I come to thank you for listening, have you guys got any questions regarding measuring success? And then we'll basically come to an overall Q&A about social media and anything business related. Got some here. So using keywords rather than hashtags.
Any questions that you do have, definitely ask them now. Even if you just made notes, you want a little bit more explanation on anything. Abby's here for it.
Yeah, so I've got two here. I heard about using I've got using keywords rather than using hashtags. Yes, so keywords are also a great way of improving your SEO on Instagram. Now, on your actual Instagram bio, you can have your name, and then you can also add keywords within that. So it might even be your local area and what you specialize in. And then any post that you create at the moment, if you basically you really want to be careful with the words that you're using. So for example, if they're searchable words, they're more likely to come up when people are looking for a service. For example, when I said about London before, if someone was looking for a nail tech in London, they could type in top nail techs in London, and then your caption would basically come up on that platform. It works in the same way on Instagram, but TikTok is really, really good with it at the moment. They are like insane with it. So definitely pay attention to the wording that you're using. Make sure it's relevant, because that will definitely push your content. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily better than hashtags. I would just say it's just another thing to consider. Buying the blue badge as it grows. I have the blue badge on Instagram. I'm not going to sit here and say it increased my engagement in the slightest. I think that was a myth when it came out. What I would say it does do is it stops, accounts trying to steal your work. It stops fake accounts. Say if you're trying to grow your personal brand as well within your business, it stops people basically just creating fake accounts and trying to scam people. That's the only reason that I went for the blue tick. I would say it is worth it in a sense that if you want to become a thought leader within your industry, I would always recommend it, because I do think it stands out to others. And I think from an engagement perspective, people engage with a blue tick because they naturally feel like they're speaking to someone that is a thought leader. My following grew massively on COVID because I did a silent chat, which had no growth since I stopped, but I have to go live video. So how can I grow? Okay, so that was probably the worst thing. During COVID, everyone's accounts blew up because everyone was at home. They were scrolling on their phones. I've got a gym wear brand as well, and my gym wear brand during COVID was amazing. It was killing it. Came off COVID, I didn't sell one pair of leggings for about 12 days, and I was like, how am I meant to keep my head afloat with this business? It was a difficult time. Everyone was obviously on their phones, and now they're not. But what I would say is you will struggle in the initial stages, but if you're creating that content and you're being consistent with it, aim to try and post 3 to 5 times a week. If you can sit there and say, right, okay, I need to post say 12 to 20 times this month, at the beginning of the month or even at the end of the previous month, work out how you're going to make that happen. That way, you at least you know that you're speaking to your audience. And then when it comes to going live, even if you can go live for 5 minutes a day, if you can sit there and say, my hair's not done, my makeup's not done, go live, because people will still resonate with that. Even if you're busy and you can jump on and say, I'm getting the kids from school, but I'm jumping on this live so I can speak to you all. Still try and analyze it, or just try and schedule say 10 minutes that week to go live and still nurture your audience. Does Pinterest help? Pinterest, it's one of them platforms. It's a difficult platform. It's not something I actually offer at the agency because I feel like it is so SEO focused. It's very blog written and people use it for inspiration. I personally wouldn't buy through Pinterest, or I wouldn't go and book anything in through Pinterest either. But I would say to use it for inspiration when it comes to recreating, say, carousel images, or just getting general inspiration for like nail art ideas as well. Maybe my followers don't get to see what I used to do, but I've now the stuck on engagement. So if you're stuck with engagement, now it's one of them. Obviously, when it comes to nurturing your audience, engagement is something that we all have to do. It's kind of that dreaded task. There is things where you can do, you can basically hire a VA to do it. So for example, I might hire a VA now that can go in and reply to all my comments. If it's not needed, it's not needed. Even if you can literally say to yourself, right, if I can get up 10 minutes earlier today, just so I can engage with my audience, really it is an important task. And I know it's time consuming and I know it's annoying, but it is something where we kind of have to say, if we want to nurture this audience for organic bookings down the line, it is something that's definitely worth making the time for if you guys can. If you can't, then maybe speaking on your stories and thanking people for people that have obviously engaged with you that day. And it might take you 10 seconds. That might be just as beneficial because at least you're still recognizing that people have engaged with you. I got one as I got hacked and I lost my account. Yeah, a lot of people got that blue tick because a lot of people were getting hacked. And don't get me wrong, it has saved a lot of people now with that blue tick. I've had so many accounts that have been recreated of me that are fake and they're just a nightmare. How often should we post on stories? So stories are one of them things. The more you post, the better. But if you ever see a decline on your stories, then I would leave your account for 24 hours. Leave it for 24 hours with no stories. And then when you come back, your insights will always be higher. But I would say to try and post 3 to 5 stories per day. Even if it is literally just on the go, it's something that people can engage with, as opposed to just one, say, static image. Or if you haven't got the time to post 3 to 5 times a day, try and post 1 to 2 times a day, but add something engaging on there, whether it's a poll, a question box, something that people can engage with. So at least then the algorithm knows that people are engaging with it, and then it'll start to push it to more followers. The grid on your camera. Yeah, camera settings on the settings app, and it should just come up. Thank you so much. I've got to go for dinner. Maisie, enjoy your dinner. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know what you're having for your dinner because I'm absolutely starving. Yes, okay, engaging stories. So engaging stories, fonts, shapes, I would literally use Canva. So if you want to create engaging stories, head over to Canva, go onto story templates and literally type in nail designs, engaging stories. And then even if you've not, say you haven't got the time to go onto Canva to do that, take an image, get a piece of your work that you've done, repost it on your story and just add a poll, add a question box and try and speak to your audience in that sense as well.
Would you say that doing like a giveaway, say if like when you reach 1,000 followers, you do a giveaway of a free set of nails, does stuff like that actually help, or is it kind of just like a way to... Yeah.
Definitely, like things like that, people love it. People absolutely love it. And you know what, it's so cheap as well in a sense because you're reaching so many people. If that goes viral, you are reaching so many people. And you can also then look, like a lot of our clients at the moment, they'll do a giveaway and then they'll boost that giveaway in their local area. They might say spend £5 a day on it, so there is a cost to it, but say you run it for 7 days, that will really push your work. And honestly, the booking, if you've been posting consistently on your account with content that people want to see, you're then posting a giveaway, the amount of eyes that you're getting on your page that can lead to bookings is crazy.
Right, okay.
I would also say, so keep giveaways to Instagram. Don't post giveaways on Facebook. If you're going to post it on Facebook, keep it to Facebook, but don't encourage people to leave the platform. Facebook absolutely hates that. But another thing that you can all like consider as well is if you're posting onto Facebook and you're using, say, Facebook Business Suite, you can also post into localized Facebook groups. That is a brilliant way to really kind of get your brand name out there and to let people see your work. Because if you're posting into a group, it might even be, say I live in Liverpool, it might even be small business Liverpool. It's not necessarily relevant, but if someone in there wants their nails doing, it's going to stand out more than all the business posts that are popping up every day.